ನೀವು ಸ್ಪಾಟ್ಲೈಟ್ ಗಿಟ್ಲೈಟ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ದೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ
ಇದು
ಯಾವ
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಎಲ್ಲ ವೀರಶೈವ ಸಮಾಜದ ಸದಸ್ಯರಿಗೂ ಹಾಗೂ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಿಂದ ಸೇರುತ್ತಿರುವಂತಹ ಬಂಧುಗಳಿಗೂ ಇವತ್ತಿನ VSNA ವಿಚಾರ ವೇದಿಕೆ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಸುಸ್ವಾಗತ. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ನಮ್ಮವರೇ ಆದ ನಾರ್ತ್ ಕ್ಯಾಲಿಫೋರ್ನಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ವಾಸಿಸುತ್ತಿರುವ ಅಶ್ವಿನಿ ಸುರ್ಪುರ್ ಅವರು ನಡೆಸ್ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈಗ ಓಂ ಚಾಂಟಿಂಗ್ ಮತ್ತು ಒಂದು ವಚನವನ್ನು ಹೇಳಿ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಶುರು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೇನೆ. ಇವತ್ತು ಬಹಳ ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಹೃದಯಕ್ಕೆ ಹತ್ತಿರವಾದಂಥ ದಿನ. ಇವತ್ತು ಯುಗಾದಿ ಹಬ್ಬ ಹಾಗೂ ನಮ್ಮ ಹಿರಿಯ ದಾರ್ಶನಿಕರಾದ ಅಲ್ಲಮ ಪ್ರಭು ಅವರ ಜಯಂತಿ. ಅವರನ್ನು ನೆನೆಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತಾ ಇವತ್ತ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಈಗ ಓಂ ಚಾಂಟಿಂಗ್ ಮತ್ತು ವಚನ. ಓ ನಮಃ ಶಿವಾಯ. ಓಂ ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರು ಬಸವಲಿಂಗಾಯ ನಮಃ. ಓಂ ನಮಃ ಶಿವಾಯ. ಓಂ ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರು ಬಸವಲಿಂಗಾಯ ನಮಃ. ಓಂ ನಮಃ ಶಿವಾಯ. ಓಂ ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರು ಬಸವಲಿಂಗಾಯ ನಮಃ. ಶರಣಾರ್ಥಿ. ಈಗ ಒಂದು ಅಲ್ಲಮ ಪ್ರಭು ಅವರ ವಚನವನ್ನು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಹಂಚಿಕೊಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಸ್ತುತಿ ನಿಂದೆಗೆ ಕಿವುಡನಾಗಿರಬೇಕು. ಸ್ತುತಿ ನಿಂದೆಗೆ ಕಿವುಡನಾಗಿರಬೇಕು. ಪರದನ ಪರಸತಿಯರಿಗೆ ಅಂಧಕನಾಗಿರಬೇಕು. ಪರದನ ಪರಸತಿಯರಿಗೆ ಅಂಧಕನಾಗಿರಬೇಕು. ವಾಕಿನಿಂದ ಪರಬ್ರಹ್ಮನ ನುಡಿವ ಕುತರ್ಕಿಗಳ ವಾಕಿನಿಂದ ಪರಬ್ರಹ್ಮವ ನುಡಿವ ಕುತರ್ಕಿಗಳ ಎಡೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಗಿಯ ಕೋಗಿಲೆಯಂತೆ ಮೂಗನಾಗಿರಬೇಕು. ಮಾಗಿಯ ಕೋಗಿಲೆಯಂತೆ ಮೂಗನಾಗಿರಬೇಕು. ಒಂದು ಎಂದು ಅರಿದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂದೇಹವಿಲ್ಲದಿರಬೇಕು. ಗುಹೇಶ್ವರ ಲಿಂಗದಲ್ಲಿ ತನ್ನ ತಾ ಮರೆದಿರಬೇಕು. ಈ ವಚನ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಅರ್ಥಗರ್ಭಿತವಾಗಿದೆ. ತನ್ನ ತಾ ಮರೆತಿರಬೇಕು, ತನ್ನತನದ ಅರಿವಿರಬೇಕು. ಇದನ್ನ ಅಲ್ಲಮ ಪ್ರಭು ಅವರು ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ವಚನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ನಾವು ಅರಿತು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಒಂದು ದೈವತ್ವಕ್ಕೆ ಹತ್ತಿರ ತಲುಪಬಹುದು ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ದಾರಿಯನ್ನು ಅವರು ತೋರಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಅಶ್ವಿನಿ ಸುರ್ಪುರ್ ಅವರು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಅಶ್ವಿನಿ ಸುರ್ಪುರ್ ಅವರು ಯೋಗ ಭಾರತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟಿವ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟರ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹಾಗೂ ನಮ್ಮ ಯೋಗದಲ್ಲೇ ಆಗಲಿ ಧ್ಯಾನದಲ್ಲೇ ಆಗಲಿ ಅಭ್ಯಾಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಮತ್ತು ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಸಿದ್ದೇಶ್ವರ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಗಳು ಇತರ ಅವರ ಕೆಲಸಗಳನ್ನು ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷಿನಲ್ಲಿ ತರ್ಜುಮೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಸಜ್ಜನ ಶಿವರ ಜೊತೆಗೂ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಒಡನಾಟ ಮತ್ತು ಕೆಲಸಗಳನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರ ಭಾವನೆಗಳನ್ನು ಧ್ಯಾನದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಇಷ್ಟಲಿಂಗ, ಪ್ರಾಣಲಿಂಗ, ಭಾವಲಿಂಗದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ವಿಷಯಗಳನ್ನು ತಮಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಮಾತನ್ನು ಕೇಳೋಣ. ಅಶ್ವಿನಿ ಸುರ್ಪುರ್ ಅವರೇ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿ.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ, ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. Is it okay if I speak in English primarily?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to share the presentation here. I hope you all can see that. This is the presentation.
ಅಶ್ವಿನಿ ಅವರು, ನಿಮ್ದು ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇದೆ. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ವಾಲ್ಯೂಮ್ ಜೋರು ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗತ್ತಾ?
ನಾನು ಜೋರಾಗಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. Is this okay now? Okay. So today we'll be looking into what is Shiva Yoga and a bit of theory and then a little bit of practice. And I would like to start with a little salutation to all the Veerashaiva gurus, the bandhus here, and pranams to Siddheshwar Swamiji, who has guided me through all my life. and also to Dharwad Kumar Swamiji. Both Siddheshwar Swamiji and Dharwad Kumar Swamiji's presentations have been the inspiration for me to present here. I'm not an expert. I'm just a follower of these gurus that have taught me. So with that, pranams and Shri Guru Basavalingaya Namaha. ಈ ಒಂದು ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಒಂದು ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಅಕ್ನಾಲೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಒಂದಿಗೆ start the presentation. We can have any questions towards them. So first and foremost, let's look into what is spirituality itself and what is spiritual inquiry. Of what is it that why do we come for these sessions? Why do we say we are Veerashaivas? Why do we say we are spiritual? So basically, we are all humans. We have faculty that is more than something is more that we have is more than what animals and plants and other creatures on this planet have. And what is that? The faculty that we have is the self inquiry, something thinking about my own thoughts, that one level above the thoughts. Like I know that I think, I ask myself why I think a certain way. So these inquiries about myself is very special about humans. And what does that lead us into? It leads us into two types of inquiries. One is, who am I? Why do I suffer? How can I be happy? Where did I come from? Where do I go when I cease to be? When I stop being who I am in this body and mind complex. So these are the questions that children have at the age of, they say, if you can mute, at the age of 6 for the most part, we develop these questions, these existential questions. In many cases, in many children develop this. The fear of death starts at 6, psychologists say. So that fear of death comes because they either see someone suffering, like Buddha did. And we are all Buddhas, except we may not have taken our inquiry to the level of Buddha, but our inquiry starts at the age of 6. So this is who we are. And there is another inquiry that also comes along with that. What is that? What is this universe? Where does it come from? Who makes this happen? What is my relationship with this universe? So this is another set of questions that come to us. That the questions that we get, the self-inquiry, is usually about our own existential crisis. But when we are totally fine, when we are all in good state, do the inquiry stop? No. The inquiry about bigger things come to us at that point. So that is the inquiry about universe. So Jiva and Jagat. So these are the two things, right? Jiva is myself, the individual. Jagat, the microcosm and the macrocosm. So the questions about microcosm, the questions about macrocosm, these continue to haunt us all our life. We may put them under the carpet. Like, for example, when our children ask these questions, we may not know how to answer, or we may just tell them, it's okay, just go to sleep, or some such thing, right? We just try to shut them down, either because we don't know the answers or we don't care too much about those answers. So our children are essentially spiritual. I'm quoting this from Dr. Lisa Miller's book. She's a researcher, and she has written a book called Spiritual Child. And if you read that, how many experiments and researches they have done to find out that to prove that children are essentially spiritual, and all these quests come from them at a very young age. When they are watching a little bird or a little tree or a little flower, many spiritual thoughts come to them. Or when someone is suffering, these thoughts come to them. And there is a good 1/3 of the population that actually goes deeper into it. They like to be alone. They like to sit down and ask and inquire within themselves. And they go into depression many a times because they don't get answers to these questions. So much of the world is suffering only because the questions are not answered, not because they don't have questions. They only go into trouble. In fact, those who are in depression and those who are in anxiety, you should always tell them, look, you are special because you have these questions, and these troubles are actually telling you something. They are telling you to come out of it. and ask these questions, find answers to these questions. So that is the idea of this spiritual inquiry that we have. And Shatsthala is that process that has been defined, matured by our Virashaiva sages to help with this self-inquiry, so that when we as adults understand, our children will also be able to go through that process. And then what happens? The world is healed. The world won't have these kind of problems. This is also a solution for many of the wars and other violence. All of it is a problem of self-inquiry not being addressed. That is how important this particular subject of self-inquiry is. And self-inquiry, for that reason, we need to also educate ourselves on what we call Tattva Jnana. The word is Tattva Jnana or Adhyatma, whichever word you want to use. Basically, it's about the inquiry about the universe at that point. So when either it is a self-inquiry or a inquiry about the universe, you have answers in Virashaiva Dharma. And so either a Shatsthala Marga for your own sadhana or Tattva Jnana, the higher knowledge about the universe and its elemental nature, every little thing that you see in the universe and why it behaves a certain way, why my mind behaves in a certain way. This kind of question, if you go on asking the question and going deep within to find the answers with a little bit of a help from our gurus and from scriptures that we have already available for us, thankfully so, with all the attacks and with all these invasions and everything, we still have saved so much of literature and of the knowledge, and then why they are not simply dead books, but there are live gurus who are carriers of that knowledge, thankfully, till today. So let us take this to the next level, to the next generation. So with that, let us talk about the self-inquiry first. That is Shiva Yoga. So what is the goal of Shiva Yoga? The goal of Shiva Yoga is our ultimate goal is to get that freedom, or freedom from suffering, you can say dukkha nivritti, as they say, and atyantika sukha prapti. And how is that possible? Not only dukkha nivritti, we are not happy with just dukkha nivritti, we want that atyantika sukha prapti. That means we want to be in that supreme bliss. And how is that possible? When there is any duality of any sense, then obviously there is me versus someone, me versus something. Then you're always in dukkha in that case. When there is a union, when there is a merger, when you are in the state of completeness, that is when you are in atyantika sukha prapti happens to you. So that is the idea of self-inquiry here, the goal of self-inquiry. You start as a bhakta, of course, you have to start somewhere. How do you start? In that dualism between the Shiva and Sharana, I like to use the word dualism because most of the times dualism is used in a negative sense. That's not correct. We have to understand that, yes, let's not negate the fact that I am still where I am and I'm still trying to figure out my goal, right? And when I reach that merger, then I have become one. Until that point, I am two. There is Shiva and there is me. There is something bigger than me. If you don't want to use the word Shiva, if you don't want to use the word God, that is also fine. If you don't want to use the word even Linga, and this is how we can talk to our children, by the way. If they say, hey, I don't want to believe in God, we say, what is God? Answer me first. So then let us try and understand that. And only when we understand that, we will hopefully be able to surrender to that. When we cannot really understand, there is no question of surrendering. We don't want to become bhakta also. So this ability to take it to the next level, to understand what is anga and what is linga, and then that is when we will be able to see that there is a beginning, there is a step-by-step process, and there is finally the state of Aikya. Shiva Yoga is that practice that takes us to that goal of Aikya. And Shiva, Shakti and Sharana is the Holy Trinity, as Kumar Swamiji says. Now I have introduced the word Shakti. Let us talk about that. What is Shakti and what is Shiva? While Shiva is the transcendent aspect of who I am, Shakti is the immanent aspect of who I am. So I am that. I am both Shiva and I am both Shakti. But you cannot simply, like for example, let's take the energy as a system, right? There is potential energy and there is kinetic energy. the potential energy is still energy, but when it manifests, it becomes the real kinetic energy and things. When I take the ball to the top of the hill, it has energy, but when it starts rolling down, we know that that is being manifested. So Shiva and Shakti are not two different things for that matter. So this is basically how our Sharanas, our Virashevas, I like to call them sages, so rishis, how they interpreted this. Okay, and now I would like to, however, talk about, read something here. Kumar Swamiji of Dharwad says very beautifully what is Aikya. Aikya can withdraw into silence. So Aikya is, again, the state of Aikya is not, okay, one has given up their bodies and one has gone into a cave and has been meditating and that's all they can do. No, that's not how Aikya is supposed to be. Or that's not how Aikya's definition is supposed to be. Kumar Swamiji says, Aikya can withdraw into silence if he wills, or he can pour himself into the world if he wills. If he is alive to the dignity of silence, he's equally alive to the dignity of life. Many a times, this Aikya is given in, is just negating the world, negating negative terms, right? Oh, I've just given up the world. I've negated this world. Correct. I've negated all these desires and these worldly pleasures and everything. But he has also attained, Aikya has attained the state of Shunya, which is not only the negation of desires, but also the state of Purnatva, the state of perfection, the state of fulfillment. That is something to note. Just wanted to bring that up here. And now, how to achieve that Shiva Yoga, how to take that sadhana to the next level. Before we go into Shatsthala itself, right? There are two steps, and two paths, we can say, but ideally they are not even two paths. Let's look at that. What are they? One is, I'm going to use the term yoga here because I'm also coming from the yoga field here. Not necessarily yoga darshana, Shiva Yoga, that also is yoga. Everywhere we use the term yoga here. So in that, we would like to say there are two things. One is karma yoga or karma kanda or karma patha, we can say. The other is jnana kanda, jnana yoga or jnana patha. So what are these two? In the karma yoga, what comes under karma yoga and what comes under jnana yoga? When you understand that, then you will be able to look at this whole Virashaiva dharma and put things in perspective, right? So in karma yoga, kayaka, dasoha, linga puja, these are the things that come under karma yoga. That means what are we? The panchachara, especially lingachara, where there is a worship of linga; sadachara, where the right conduct is paid attention to; shivachara, where you treat everyone as Shiva's manifestation, Shiva's children, Shiva's product, you can say; Brityachara, where you take up seva and you become the servant of this whole universe; and then Ganachara, where you take up the act of protecting dharma, dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. So you have to protect it as well. For that, you should be able to sacrifice yourself. All this, you are ready for that. This is the first step. That is what is karma yoga. So you are in action. You are in the world doing actions, including linga puja. It is all karma yoga. And then comes the jnana yoga. So this karma yoga is very important and very necessary. It gives you chitta shuddhi, it gives you antakarana shuddhi. Basically, you are cleansing of your desires and all the negativities that we carry from who knows how long. Anadi, from Anadi, we have this illusion, or rather, I should say, the ignorance, the malas that are inside us, we have to cleanse them. All this is done by karma yoga. And when you are decently ready, or even otherwise side to side, you can also practice jnana yoga, which is you follow the guru by listening, shravana, manana, nididhyasana, where you listen to the guru not once, repeatedly, and you manana, reflect on that, and then you bring it into your anubhava, which is you are actually experiencing and inculcating life ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದನ್ನ ಅಳವಡಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು, that also, and feeling it, not simply believing what guru says, but you should live the thought of the guru and go with the leap of faith, otherwise you are not even going to listen. So, but don't take leap of faith as everything. Okay, my guru said this is how it's going to be, that's how it's going to be. No, question the guru. As Bhagavad Gita says, pariprashnena sevaya. So don't even take the word of guru just for granted. Ask guru, cross question the guru until you are satisfied, until you are convinced that this is the right process. So all this is Jnana Yoga, where contemplation happens. And Karma Yoga practiced without that Jnana becomes a blind ritual. Should I practice this way? Should I practice that way? Why not this way? Oh, my guru said this way. That's how it becomes. Or maybe we are just simply lost in the world with the small details. Whereas Jnana Yoga without Karma Yoga, let's say you want to, now Jnana Yoga is better, let me do only Jnana Yoga, let me only listen to the guru, but I'm not going to practice anything. That is also not good, because it leads to arrogance at that point. Then you feel you have rattled all the vachanas and you can chant, say anything that has been asked, and you have this huge ego that you know 1000 vachanas and you are an expert in writing text after text. That also is not considered the path for liberation. So you can of course take one as the primary path. Some may be more inclined towards more of a puja and paddhati, whereas the other may be more inclined towards the contemplation path, and you may be sitting at the feet of guru and listening, or you may be doing your own intellectual work. You may be writing books and translating, or whatever you are, or vachanas, or whatever it is. But basically each one of us have different propensity for how we want to engage in the spiritual journey, and that is totally fine. And no one path suits the other, and there is no one path that is better than the other. Okay, as long as it is inclusive, we are good, we are heading the right way. So and this Shiva Yoga is, as the experts say, is also attained step by step. Krama is the way, as they say, right? Krama means the steps that we follow. We don't really say that one fine day will be in some Vedantic text they say that's it, liberation is instant, it's just instantly it happens. Krama versus sama, that's not, we have so many defilements inside us. Until we cleanse them step by step, we are not going to instantly get it. So that is the opinion of our Virashaiva sages here. That's why it's called sthala. So coming to Shiva Yoga, how to achieve it. So again, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, we talked about this. So let us see what is the pinnacle of Karma Yoga our Sharanas have gone to, and what is the pinnacle of Jnana Yoga our Sharanas have gone. So I'm going to quote this vachana by Ladde Somanna. This is my most favorite one. He says beautifully, ಆವ ಕಾಯಕವಾದರೂ ಸ್ವಕಾಯಕವ ಮಾಡಿ ಗುರುಲಿಂಗ ಜಂಗಮದ ಮುಂದಿಟ್ಟು ಒಕ್ಕುದ ಹಾರೈಸಿ ಮಿಕ್ಕುದ ಕೈಗೊಂಡು ವ್ಯಾಧಿ ಬಂದರೆ ನರಳು ಬೇನೆ ಬಂದರೆ ಒರಲು ಜೀವ ಹೋದರೆ ಸಾಯಿ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಆ ದೇವರ ಹಂಗೇಕೆ ಭಾಪುಲದ್ದೆಯ ಸೋಮಣ್ಣ. So look at this, just saying this, just hair rises. What is he trying to say? Whatever be the work, whatever be the action that I am engaged in, could be simple washing, or simple cleaning a place, or whatever that work that I'm doing, I want to make it my own. And then once I finish the work, I take that and place it in, offer it to Guru Linga and Jangama, and then whatever I can do, I'll do. Whatever I cannot do, I'll let it go. I'll not sweat it over anything, like I have to finish everything. This is the only way to do it, otherwise I'm a failure. Nothing. Whatever you can, you do it. Mikkuda kaigondu, whatever you can do. And then vyadhi bandare, through that process of service, you can you are also using this body, remember that. And then what happens when you go on working and working and working? You can be tired, you can be worn out, you can develop diseases, anything can happen, and it's okay. Occupational hazards are there, fine. I'm just going to be taking that also, and when I am ready to die, I'm happy to give the life also for that seva of Guru Linga and Jangama. And Kayo me patatu Prabhu, let this body fall in the service of Lord. And I'm okay with that. So that is the level of thinking. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಆ ದೇವರ ಹಂಗೆಕೆ ಐ ಆಮ್ ನಾಟ್ ಹಿಯರ್ ಟು ಆಸ್ಕ್ ಓ ಗಾಡ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮೀ ಓ ಲುಕ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಸರ್ವಿಂಗ್ ಯು ಅಂಡ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ ಟು ಮೀ ಯು ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮೀ ನಾವ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ನೋ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ನಾಟ್ ಇವನ್ ಆಸ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ದಿ ಹೈಯೆಸ್ಟ್ ಕರ್ಮಯೋಗ ಕರ್ಮಣ್ಯೇವಾಧಿಕಾರಸ್ತೆ ಮಾ ಫಲೇಷು ಕದಾಚನ that's only a statement here someone is showing by practice so beautifully so that is the karma yoga path and the pinnacle that our gurus have reached our sages have reached. I would like to call Ladde Somanna. He may be just an ordinary person, but for all practical purposes. But look at this. This is the real sage, right? This is what sagehood is all about, the rishihood. So then coming to Nyani Yogapada. Shivapatha Arivade Gurupatha Modalu. So we cannot just attain without gurus. Although, Buddha said Swayam Guru Banu and all that. This is all great when someone who already has cleansed their lives for many, their souls, we can say, however it is, for many lives as they call it. I don't know that part, but what I can easily say is that with the guru in place in our lives, we can easily see that light of knowledge day after day after day. And I totally agree with this statement here. So Basavanna's Vachana goes very clearly to show that how this krama, that is step by step, one can go there. And Basavanna says, well, mella mellane bhaktan enisikonde, mella mellane maheshwarane enisikombe, mella mellane prasadi pranalingi sharanane enisikombe, mella mellane aikyan enisikombe, mella mellane ಷಟ್ಸ್ಥಲ ಮೀರಿ ನಿರವಯ ಸ್ಥಳವನ್ನೇ ನೇಯ್ದು ವೇನಯ್ಯ ಕೂಡಲ ಸಂಗಮ ದೇವ. So he says that there is always that step by step process in reaching to the higher, reaching the higher goal. So with that, that is the self-inquiry path that we talked about, and a little bit about Tattvajnana before we go into the practice of the Shatsthala. So Tattvajnana, we pretty much, we think that this is only for scholars and this is a debate, the debates that happened in the past, right, where Pandits sit and argue and say my path is better than your path and all. That has chased people away from Tattvajnana, and they always think that this is such a useless exercise. But throwing away Tattvajnana is like throwing away baby with the bath water, right? Yes, debates have happened. Yes, people have fought in the name of religion. But these, in fact, if you ask me, these are some of the best fights that have happened, if anything, right? The worst fights are those who are killing in the name of religion and all. Here they were at the most debating, and one was winning and the other was losing, or whatever it could be, right? But they are not as bad as the worst things that have happened in the name of religion. So I would not give up Tattvajnana for just because there were debates, futile debates in the past. But why is Tattvajnana important? Let's look into it. So Shunya, it's a, this is what Tattvajnana talks about. Shunya is the term used to denote one reality. Our Shunya is not Tattva. Shunya is the ultimate reality, the ultimate truth. So then there could be more things that are coming up, right? Shiva is the transcendent aspect of reality, like we talked before, and Shakti is the immanent aspect. So we are bringing these little terms. Don't worry about them. Just, they are all little terms for you to start thinking. Start thinking of bigger things, of the universe, how this universe comes about, how the mind thinks like this, how ask question for everything. Ask a question. Why do I get up in the morning and want some coffee? Ask these questions. What is the mind thinking? When dissect the mind, the way medical science, the way doctor dissects the body to understand the body, you have to understand the mind to even transcend the mind. If you say, I want to conquer this mind, I want to master this mind, how are you going to master the mind when you never understood it in the first place? Now, have you gone into the mind? Have you seen how the mind thinks? Have you seen what are the elemental aspects of the mind? And when I say I have to get up and have coffee, what happens to that? I wake up, and what happens when I wake up? Oh, that ego meaning positive ego, that I-ness, that I feeling comes. I feeling comes. And the next thing that happens, Icha. Oh, I want coffee. So Ichha Shakti. And then you want to go and find out where is coffee. Maybe you are in a place where there is new place. You just are in a restaurant. Oh, where are the coffee places here? So Jnana Shakti. And then you go, let me go there. So Kriya Shakti, you act on that. So you first thing, desire, volition comes. Before volition, something else comes. That is, you wake up and where am I? Oh, I am here. So I thought comes, and then that body thought comes. All these things, look at this, right? All how to even go deeper into self, these thoughts, this way of analyzing myself, this is a much bigger avenue of inquiry than we in the world thinking, oh, that person behaved like this person behaved like that, oh, I'm upset with this. And see how from the lower level of material thinking to now you are elevated your thought levels to something much higher. That is where inquiry is, and that is where your mind is being cultured to the point where you can go deeper, understand subtler things as opposed to the gross things that we do in the world. Oh, let me see what is the best sari I've got, let me see how best can I look when I go to a party. These are all, they are also giving you happiness, no doubt, but the happiness that you get when you inquire within is so much grander and so much bigger. So you are going after subtler thoughts, but those thoughts that elevate your spirit much higher. That is what Tattvajnana allows you to do. So some of the ontological elements that I want to bring, just don't worry, just bear with me. Okay, some of the words like chitta. Chitta is basically the in this particular context, it can mean many things in many ways, but it is in this context we are meaning emotions. Then ahankara, the thought of I. Manas, the mind. See, we just thought emotions was the mind. Now, where is this mind coming from? Right? Just the mind that heart, what Kumar Swamiji calls. We can call it mana, buddhi, and ahankara also, right? Chitta can be also known as the memory, the whole thoughts of memories that are sitting inside me. That can be chitta also. So those memories guide me, guide my mind, in fact. And buddhi is the intellect. And why is it not the same as mind? Buddhi must be the same as mind. No, because buddhi can guide the mind. Because you want to have a coffee and then the buddhi says, no, today is fasting, remember, you're not having coffee. So that is buddhi. Buddhi is the boss of the mind. It's a discriminating faculty. So see how they have dissected the mind and found out so many little elements inside. That itself is so much fun. Such a thrilling journey to go through. Such a thrilling knowledge journey to go through. That is what this whole thing is. And then karmendriya, organs of action. Jnanendriya, organs of perception. Tanmatra. Wow, that's another one. What is that? That is, they have found out that Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, these are tanmatras. The sound is simply the object of hearing is necessary before your ears are produced. So if you have to re-engineer or reverse engineer, I should say, this universe, how, if I was God, I become God, how do I create this world? Do I create sound first or do I create ears first? You see, do I create the aspect of hearing first or do I create the organ of hearing first? See how they have gone and done a reverse engineering of this creation. And that is what led to the deepest thought about how this universe might have come about. And isn't it a beautiful exercise to go through for you to understand that and culture your mind to that subtlety? Only then you can conquer your mind. Otherwise, just saying that I want to conquer my mind and I want to sit and watch my breath, it's not going to help you. So that is what Tattvajnana is. Similarly, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas are three qualities, and most of you already might have come across this. He's a sattvic person, he's a rajasic person. Oh, very, very fast rajasic person. Tamasic, very, very, lethargic person. We know this. But do you know that Akkamadevi has used it? Sattva, Raja, Tama, Trivida Gelida Tripurantaka Kande ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾಳೆ Akkamadevi. So basically, that means she has studied this whole Tattvajnana. And what to talk about Allama Prabhu? He constantly talks about Binduve Pitavagi, Nadave Lingavadade, Adu Binnalinga Nodu, Kale Emba Puje, Nirmalyavagi, Nada Bindu Kalatita Nodu, Mahaganavu, Alli Illi Silukida, Achala ಅಚಲವಪ್ಪ ನಿರಾಳವ ಪ್ರಣವ ರೂಪೆಂದು ಹೆಸರಿಡಬಹುದೇ? ನಮ್ಮ ಗುಹೇಶ್ವರನ ನಿಲುವು ನಿಶ್ಶಬ್ದಂ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಉಚ್ಯತೆ ಎಂಬುದನ್ನರಿಯ ಸಿದ್ದರಾಮಯ್ಯ, ಅರಿಯ ಸಿದ್ದರಾಮಯ್ಯ, ಇಟ್ ಟೆಲ್ಸ್ ಸಿದ್ದರಾಮಯ್ಯ that ನಿಶ್ಶಬ್ದಂ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ, ನಾದ ಬಿಂದ ಕಳಾತೀತ, all you come out of all of this. How do you come out of all of this? Understand all of these before you come out of all of these. So they are Rishi or Sharanas are exclaiming these in the Vachanas. That doesn't mean that we just memorize them and simply rattle them and simply mug up and talk like them and think that we became like them. We are not going to become like them just by repeating the words. While repeating the words are very, very important, please understand, we have to learn these vachanas. But what is the rapture, this rapturous vachana that comes out of them? What is that state of mind that they have achieved, and how do I get there? That we have to get to. Otherwise we are simply they are there and we are here and we are doing our puja like typical any other puja, right? We just take either we take linga and do the puja, or we take the vachanas and do the puja, or we take something else and or we use their photo and do the puja. That doesn't help. How did they or repeating the mantra itself is one other puja, or repeating vachana is one other puja. No, these are not puja. They are all important. They are very, very important part of spiritual practices, but we need to go behind the curtain. We need to go and find why they said the way they said, what made them say the way they said, how, in what state of mind they exclaimed this. All this is going to help us get there. Similarly, waking, dreaming, and sleeping. We think we are happily waking up, we are happily dreaming, we are happily sleeping. We never thought about that. And then the Sharana inquires, what exactly is happening during sleep? What exactly Sharana, there is that vachana about how Sharana, who is Sharana, is when he wakes up, what happens? Sharana eddare Shivaratri kanaya. So when you what exactly are they saying there? They are studying the state of mind of Sharana during sleep, during wakefulness, during dreams, sleep. And that is the rapturous vachana that comes out of it is actually an indication that they are actually studying something. They are meditating on something here. That is what we need to do. And that's what is being done already. And we need to at least look into what has been done there. Same thing we talked about Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. That is how the world moves. It moves with desire. There is a desire. And of course, all desires are not bad. There are certain desires that are going to elevate you. So Ichha Shakti, that's why it is used, the Shakti word is used here. Shakti is, Shakti. And even while doing our Linga Puja, we even use Shakti Pitha. We write those triangle, if you will, right? Those Shatpadi that you write, six, the star, a little star that we write. So we do, why do we do that? What exactly is it trying to say? We are worshipping Shakti and Shiva there, right there. And that is, Ichha Shakti is part of that tattva. And let us understand what that is, right? So to understand all of that, you need to go to Sankhya, back again to Sankhya. And Sankhya has become the basis of every tattva jnana for centuries and many, many thousands of years. And what is that Sankhya here? It's again, same reverse engineered, like we said, right? Kapila Muni in his most superconscious, subtlest of the superconscious state, in the stellar clear mind, visualized how the world would have been formed, right? No, we won't say creation. This is not a creation. This is not an intelligent design. This is not any of that. It's simply a model of how one can visualize the manifestation. That is Purusha and Prakriti, and Virshaiva Dharma accepts Purusha and Prakriti, by the way, and it goes above and beyond. It also brings Shakti and Shiva, it brings Maya and Mala and all of that, but Purusha and Prakriti very much accepts. Every system of Darshana later accepted this, including Buddhism. So this they have their own Sankhya, a little bit different terms, but pretty much similar. So Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is that consciousness principle, and Prakriti is this unmanifest primordial matter which later starts manifesting. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, as long as they are in balance and pulling each other, there is a dynamic equilibrium and no manifestation happens. When that dynamic equilibrium changes, and the sages are beautifully honest saying, we don't know why that why that balance breaks. We don't know that. Very beautiful, honest answer, but it does. And when it does, the first principle that comes out of it is Mahat Buddhi, the cosmic intelligence here. From there, individuation happens, Ahankara comes about. And from there comes about mind, which has Jnanendriya and Karmendriya aspect. And from the tamasic aspect of Ahankara comes the Tanmatras, which are the Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. From that, when it further grossifies, the earth, water, fire, air, and space, that is Bhumi, Ap, Teja, Vayu, Akasha, they come about. This is just, I'm just quickly going to talk, but it will take 2 hours to just explain this itself, but we'll move on. If you want to learn more, please do study Sankhya. And now let's straight away come to Shatsthala here and Tattvas. So now this is very important and very beautiful also, the Shatsthala, right? Bhakta, what is Bhakta for, right? Bhakta is when you surrender yourself, you are actually culturing emotions. The Chitta Shuddhi happens, purification of heart, says Dharwad Kumar Swamiji here. Sut Chitta, you develop Sut Chitta. Okay, when you have already decently cultured your emotions, why even culture emotions? I can say I am egoless, I am nirahankari, and I am totally surrendered, I'm fine. No, you cannot say that. Sit down to meditate. When we all were in our, even when someone approaches, we say that if the person is full of emotions, it's very difficult to sit and meditate. So you have to bring them into control. Then comes Mahesha, Sadbuddhi develops, the clarity of intellect happens. Then you develop the determination to sit down and meditate, or sit down and do puja, linga puja, ishtalinga puja, whatever it is, right? So Nishchayatmika Buddhi, that is needs to be developed. Then comes Prasadi. After that, you become Nirahankara. That's when you can become Nirahankara, the egoless person, and work with the sense of instrument. And Nimitta Matram. So you become Nimitta Matram. You are just an instrument. That's possible only when you have cultured your emotions and you have developed the clarity of intellect. And then comes the Prana Lingi state. This is very important, and today we are actually working on this. What is that? When you have decently enough come to this state. And again, I'm not saying that you have to have mastered your mind and your emotions completely before you can get here. Let us work on each one of them. Let us get to each one of them a little by little and hopefully develop it. It's not possible to completely conquer the mind before we go into the next state. Let's taste them anyway. So Prakamya, in Pranalingi state, we awaken the latent power of mind. In a way, your Pranalingi helps you to become Bhakta also better. Okay, so removes the stagnation of mind. Controlling prana is very important, and that Ishtalinga Drishti that helps you to actually develop some amount of prakamya there also. And pranayama, in fact, also helps you to do that. So your kundalini jagrata happens. All these things are possible. Okay, and then Sharana, he develops jnana, sudjnana, and then you see the whole world as the divine play, and you become simply yet another worker in that. You develop the state of Sthita Prajna at that point. And what Bhagavad Gita says in Sthita Prajna is basically Sharana here. Sharana is the embodiment of spontaneity, creativity, and a fountainhead of wisdom, compassion, and seva. And Aikya, we talked about that before, develops intuition. He can withdraw into silence, or he can be another fountainhead of action. But deep within, she's complete and has no need for the world to complete her, but she will be satisfied, detached. She'll be satisfied, and she can engage in the world or disengage in the world. It doesn't matter. Now let us come to the most important aspect here, that is Shunya. And this whole thing about how Shatsthala would have come about, right? How did they define 6 states? Why not 7? Why not 8? Why not 4? Right? Let's look into that. Shunya, what they did, they looked at Shunya and they looked at this human faculty, and they said, there is Anga, that is me. There is Linga, which is something much transcendent aspect of me. Like, I'll again read Kumar Swamiji's sentences here. Spiritual life has the law of inversion, which exhibits a constant tendency of man to become God and contrary tendency of God to become man. This is beautiful, because that journey of upward journey and downward journey, both are happening. Okay, there can be no concrete spiritual life otherwise without these tendencies. Indeed, the mystery of concrete spiritual life lies in the law of contradiction, which displays the humanity of God and the divinity of man. Isn't it so beautiful? In the absence of this contradiction, either in the divine or in the human, there cannot be rich and exquisite beauty, because you are constant. There is a chara, constant movement happening, and that movement is from lower to higher and higher to lower. If you call it even lower and higher, basically it's just a play. So spiritual life has its charm because there is constant seeding of the divine by the human and a constant yearning of the human to become divine. And that yearning and seeking is what moves this universe from up and you can say horizontally, if you don't want to go up and down. If you don't want to say God is higher and I am lower, no need to say that way also, because it's just a play at the end of it anyway. Okay, so now that then Anga and Linga is understood, right? So there is Jiva and there is Jivatma and Paramatma, and that Jivatma is in the three states, yeah, waking state, dreaming state, and sleeping state. And what exactly is this? This also is a metaphor in a way. Waking state is when we are engaging in the outside world, right? That's what they call it, waking state. But you can also take it to be when me and my material world and my gross engagement, stula pravritti of being able to engage only in like party life, let's assume, right? That is my anga sthala. But when I transform that, when I become bhakta, when I try to refine, when I'm start developing distaste in this material world, then I will develop this transformed the Vaishvanara. Vaishvanara is engagement in the Jagrat world. When I transform, then I develop Tyaganga. And when I transform the inner subtler world, there's always a mind and its own play, right? Subtler world, right? Within me. And when I transform that, that's called dreaming. Dreaming not necessarily means dreaming only, but it's a subtler engagement that I always have. I think into my mind before I talk to others, right? I say how bad of this person, and I say, hey, nice meeting you. But then inside there is a world that is happening within me, right? That when I transform it, then I'm into Bhoganga. Then I start enjoying actually in a way. So that's why it's Bhoganga. Then when I go deeper than that, now I'm no longer into outside world, and I'm no longer thinking even good or bad in the inside mind, then I'm into deeper state, which is called deep sleep. It doesn't necessarily, it also is deep sleep, but it is more than that. It is the Pradnya state. When I'm in that Pradnya state, when I transform that, I go into Yoganga state. So now three from here we got three. And here in the Yoga Tyaganga, I take Ishtalinga for worship. In the Bhoganga, I take Pranalinga for worship. And in the Yoganga, I take Bhavalinga for worship. You see, so Ishtalinga is more about, it's the stula, it's a grosser level of worship. When I go inward, it's Pranalinga. So I'm now, because that also has to be refined. My inner world also has to be refined. My outer engagement, my emotions have to be refined. So all these. So when I go grosser level of worship, I also cleanse my grosser thinking. When I go deeper, I cleanse my deeper thinking. So of course, there is a little bit of a hierarchy to it. You have to cleanse your grosser level to a certain degree. Before you go into a deeper level. But at the same time, if you are decently enough, have done your sadhana in the Ishtalinga, you can start going into Pranalinga also. So Tyaganga gives up the worldly attachments and transformed Vaishvanara, Vaishvajiva, and realizes their divine nature through Ishtalinga. Bhoganga goes inward, world of senses, transformed Taijasa, takes only what is conducive to spiritual growth, and all that is done through Pranalinga. Then Yoganga goes inward into the world of vasanas. There are deeper level of, so I've pretty much taken care of my emotions and my inner negative thinking and all that. But then unfortunately, there are deep vasanas. which come out only when some really bad incidents or some really pleasurable incidents happen. So they spring out, they make you act. So you have to recognize that too. When you realize that everything is divine, and when you leave out that old karana sharira, what they call sthula sharira, sukshma sharira, and karana sharira, when you give up that karana sharira also, then your seeds of all these vasanas are burnt, and there is no scope for any more of these showing up and you getting caught in the world again. Okay. So with that, I think we can basically look into how to go about this practice. So here is one slide where there is Ishtalinga, Pranalinga, and Bhavalinga, and how how Shatsthala applies here, right? When you're worshipping Ishtalinga initially, you have to develop Shraddha and Bhakti. Shraddha Bhakti is the term, and you use Acharalinga, that is a practical way of doing things, and you become a bhakta. Then when you develop nishtha bhakti, that absolute single pointed, devotion, then it is called guru linga, is the word used here, devotion, maheshasthala. When you then come out of ishtalinga and go, not necessarily give up ishtalinga, by the way, I'm just saying when you go into pranalinga at this point, you are now looking at universal divine. From individual divine, you are going into universal divine, and your inquiry also accordingly changes, or rather I should say widens more than changes. So then you develop Avadhana Bhakti, which is the term used here is Shivalinga, that is total surrender. You are now Shivachara, right? Everybody is divine, everybody is equal for you. You are in the prasadi state. And when you develop Anubhava Bhakti, then you go into the term used for this is Charalinga. That is because you are dynamic and you are working on much higher level of sadhana and develop Prakamya, where Ishta Siddhi happens for you. This is Pranalinga. When we say Ishta Siddhi, it's not, don't take it as some mystic thing. Okay, it's basically you become a better version of yourself, better and better, and don't get easily tired. For example, that's Ishta Siddhi. You don't want ailments, you can work on that. That's Ishta Siddhi. So things like that. So you are a Pranalinga at that point. You develop complete control over Prana, which is guiding you and guiding in the world. So all three worlds, they say, right? Prana Siedam Vashe Sarvam. And you are the Pranalinga at this point. So then Bhavalinga, then the third stage is where you take infinite divine here. You're way beyond all this. Everything is subtler. So from very, very sthula level to now you're in a Karana level. Ananda Bhakti takes you to Prasadalinga, and divine grace comes to you at this point, and you become Sharana. And then when you are in a complete Samarasya, which is the Mahalinga, where you involute, the word we like to use in, especially in Sankhya, it is used, is involute. You involute to the complete Mahalinga, which is the starting state. You can one like earlier startings, one of the first starting states before from the Shunya that comes out. So you go there to that state. So with that, we'll stop here, and we'll once again acknowledgements to Siddheshwar Swamiji's discourses and Swamiji Kumar Swamiji of Dharwad and other resources I found on the web. Thank you very much, and we'll just sit for a few minutes and look into this little pranalinga as the meditation. If I
ಈಗ
can.
ಶುರು ಮಾಡೋಣ ಅಶ್ವಿನಿ ಅವರೇ, ಶಿವಯೋಗನ. ಓಕೆ, ಈ ಶಿವಯೋಗ ಮಾಡಿ ನಂತರ ಬೇರೆ ಏನೋ ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ನಂತರ ಮಾಡೋಣ.
Okay, so simply sit comfortably, back straight. Take your awareness to the breath. As you inhale, chant so in your mind, and as you exhale, chant hum in your mind. So hum. That I am. That Shunya I am. That Shiva I am. So Hum. No change in the breathing pattern. Sahaja pranayama. So the breath chants on its own, and you watch. And now bring your Ishtalinga in between your forehead. Closed eyes, visualize your Ishtalinga. So with Ishtalinga in between your forehead. And now bring your awareness to the spine. As you inhale, draw the air from the depth of the spine while your Ishtalinga is still visible in between your forehead with your closed eyes. Draw the breath from the depth of your spine. Allow this prana to go all the way up to the head region, crown of the head. And as you exhale, allow this prana to be distributed to the whole body. And now you're turning your entire body into linga. Inhale from the depth of the spine to the crown of the head. Exhale, and every drop of this prana fills your body and mind. ಅಖಂಡ ಮಂಡಲವೆಂಬ ಬಾವಿ ಪವನವೇರಾಟಾಳ ಶುಷುಮ್ನ ನಾಳದಿಂದ ಉದಕವತಿದ್ದಿ. Allama Prabhu has given us this practice from the depth of your spine. Draw the prana like you're drawing the water from the well. The coiled energy at the spine, root of the spine, Muladhara Chakra, is waking up towards Sahasrara. ಸಹಸ್ರದಳ ಕಮಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಗುಹೇಶ್ವರ ಲಿಂಗವು. Take your breath from the root of the spine to the crown of the head, where the 1,000 lotuses are located. And with exhalation, just visualize the whole body becoming pranalinga. And now, leaving all the breath and the visualization, just sit down with you as a bundle of prana, the entire body and mind becoming a linga. Just sit unmoving in any mudra of your choice, spine erect, complete silence. Nishabdham Brahma Uchyate, as Allama says again. ಶರಣ ಶರಣಾರ್ಥಿ. Thank you very much. If you have any questions.
Hari Om Ashwini and Sharanam. This is Kiran. I don't know if you remember, but we met in the Vipassana conference in the Bay Area. I was a guy, just to, in case you've forgotten, do you remember? Okay. I was a guy who told you that I lost very early on. I got into this English medium schools, and I lost the ability to converse in Kannada. And you were laughing, and you said you also grew up in the same environment, but you didn't lose it. So I have a few questions, but I'll just start with one. I'm trying to figure out.
ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಟೈಮ್ ಕೊಡಿ. ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಗಿವ್ ಯು ದ ಅಪಾರ್ಚುನಿಟಿ.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
ಸಂತೋಷ ನೀವು ಬಂದಿದ್ದು. ಎಲ್ಲರ ಪರವಾಗಿ ನಾನು ಅಶ್ವಿನಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ಅರ್ಪಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಕ್ಲಿಷ್ಟಕರವಾದಂಥ ವಿಷಯನ ಸರಳ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನಪಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದೂ ನಮಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಧೈರ್ಯ ನನಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಭಾಳಷ್ಟು ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಚಿಂತನೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾನು ಇನ್ನೂ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಭಾಳ ಇದೆ. ನೀವೇನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಅಶ್ವಿನಿ ಅವರೇ, ನಮ್ಮ ಎಲ್ಲರ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಅದರ ಕ್ಲಿಷ್ಟತೆ ನೋಡಿ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯಿತು. ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ರಿಪೀಟಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಡೀಪಾಗಿ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಸ್ಲೈಡನ್ನು ಒಂದೊಂದು ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಥರ ನಾವು ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಹೋಗಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಅಭ್ಯಾಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋದರೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ನಮಗೆ ಕ್ಲಾರಿಟಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಭಾಳಷ್ಟು ವಿಷಯಗಳು. ಹಾಗಾದರೆ ನಾವು ಭಕ್ತಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ಲಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ಭಕ್ತಿ ಅಂತೀವಿ, ನೀವು 6 ಭಕ್ತಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ. ಆ 6 ಭಕ್ತಿಯ ಒಂದು ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನು ಡಿವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ ಈ ಇರೋ ಕೂದಲು ಹೊರಟೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಆ ಒಂದು ಈ ಒಂದು ಭಾಳಷ್ಟು ವಿಷಯ, ಒಂದು ಭಾಳ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಇದನ್ನು ಜಸ್ಟ್ ನೀವು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಡಿ, ನಿಧಾನವಾಗಿ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸಿದ್ರು ಇಂಟ್ರಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟು ನೀವು ಥಿಂಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನೀವು ಅಂತ. ಭಾಳಷ್ಟು ನೀವು ತೋರಿಸಿರುವಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಲೈಡಲ್ಲಿ there is some very good reasoning and thought process, very strong thought process is there, and as a group we would like to understand that more and more. ಈ ಥರ ನಾವು ಇನ್ನೂ ಮುಂದೆ ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಮಗೆ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಈ ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜನ್ನು ಭಾಳಷ್ಟು ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಈಗ ಬೇರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಿರಣ್ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಯವರು ಪಾಪ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳು ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಕಿರಣ್ ಅವರೇ, ಈಗ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳು ನೀವು ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ನಮ್ಮ ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನನ್ನು ಶುರು ಮಾಡೋಣ.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. ನಾನು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪರ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥ ಒಂದು ಯಾವ ಪ್ರಿಟೆನ್ಷನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. ಲೆಟ್ ಅಸ್ ಲರ್ನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಟುಗೆದರ್. ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಕೂಡಿ ಅದನ್ನ ವಿಚಾರ ಮಂಥನ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಕಲಿಯೋಣ. ನನಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬರುತ್ತೋ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ತರ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಅದು ಒಳ್ಳೇದು. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ನನಗೆ ಒಂಥರ ಎಂಬ್ರಾಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಬಾರ್ದು. ಐ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ whatever I know, I'm picking it up. Whatever sadhana I have done, I can share. But most importantly, I'm also want to learn from you. ಎಲ್ಲ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಜನ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ, ಸಜ್ಜನ್ಜಿ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾವು ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಪ್ರಿಟೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು. ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆದಷ್ಟು ನನಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಗೊತ್ತೋ ಅಷ್ಟು ಹೇಳಿ. ಇದನ್ನ ಮಾತ್ರ ಕುಮಾರ್ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ ವೆಬ್ಸೈಟ್ ಇದೆ, vivisheva.net. Please visit and you have to read. I have read it 10 times and I'm still learning. You kuda start ಮಾಡಬಹುದು.
ಕಿರಣ್ ಅವರೇ ಕೇಳಿ. ಕಿರಣ್ ಅವರೇ,
Yeah, and I apologize for that. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, but people can read their mind. It'll be good for everybody. Okay.
I think
so yeah, there's still
sorry, I will Rishti. Okay. ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ರು ಯಾರೋ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. Okay, carry on.
So I apologize, Harish, for jumping in. Um, are you guys still getting started?
Yeah, I think there is. I think it might be from you. Everybody else is muted.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಹರೀಶ್ ಅವರೇ ನಿಮ್ಮಿಂದ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅದು.
I think it's coming from you, Harish. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, I continuing my, and again, apologize, Satish. Continuing my brief thing. I grew up. I was born a Lingat family, but it was very secular, and I didn't get much of it. I happened to. I pretty much became an agnostic. I'm bordering on atheism. I switched when I met Siddheshwar Swamiji. But then I have also continued that in the Vedanta tradition. So I was curious. So now let's say somebody who has an intellectual conviction that the world is an illusion, and also is convinced intellectually that he or she is not the BMI. Okay, for that particular individual, where is the scope of Shiva Yoga coming in your chart? In your first chart, you talked about Shiva Yoga. Where would that fit in? Somebody who has who has an intellectual conviction only, not the jnana part.
So here is the first thing, right? When someone has already concluded, you cannot help them. When someone is open, they will come to you, or they will come to the knowledge, not necessarily you. But when I say you, whatever you have, like let's say even your children, if you expect them to go with a certain statement that you are going to make, it doesn't work like that, right? So say, for you already said your parents or your family was secular, right? But you decided to move on because you found something interesting here. So somewhere that that curiosity and that inquisitiveness has to kick in, and it should kick in beyond the intellectual realm, because even I was in, only in the intellectual thing, always skeptic and always on the borderline agnostic. But although my quest was not small, but I never took anything. Guru to me was like, oh, I don't know. I was fearful of any kavi for that matter, because we don't know what kind of, what they say, and why should I believe what they say? All these were there in my mind also when I was growing up. But then the quest outperformed. We can say that, right? When you're not satisfied, no matter how much intellectually you are ready, and you have to wait. You have to wait for time to ripen up. That's all I can say, if that is answering my question. But I actually missed one of the points.
Yeah,
It's an intellectual thing.
So my question actually was, within the realm of Shiva Yoga, where would an individual fit who has an intellectual grasp of that the world is an illusion and he's not the BMI? I'm trying to see. Yeah.
Correct. That's why what we are saying here is you are using the word intellectual. That's why I'm countering it, right? Because as soon as you have your intellectual grasp is only playing in that perimeter of the world again. So you have to cross that intellectual state, whatever is the grasp you're talking about. Because you're using the word intellectual, I'm fighting you. But if you say, someone who has understood this universe, then there will be no question. As long as there is question, you are completely working on sharpening your intellect. No question about it. You have to use the intellect, you have to use the mind, you have to use the emotions, you have to use all the mental faculty, physical faculty, the ahankara, the I-ness that we have. All of it is harnessed, but ultimately to transcend that intellect. And there is something much deeper than that. When you feel it, you cannot talk. For example, I recently went to a 10-day Vipassana meditation, where I was actually for the most part doing my own Prana meditation, frankly speaking, because as much as I was, which is the same actually, there is no difference whatsoever. And when I was sitting there, it just At the end of it, I wanted to write something about it. I was following to the letter all that they were telling me to follow, and they were saying, don't follow any other religion, nothing else. I said, fine. I completely surrendered to that. But at the end, I said, how is it different? I didn't find it any different from this Prana Linga meditation that we talk about today. And I found out that I could not write. Till today, I have taken the pen to write about my experience and I fail. So that intellect completely fails there. So this is what my answer is to this, unless I am completely mistaken on your question. In which case, I would encourage Sajjananna or somebody else who want to answer this.
No, your answer is exactly right. The way I look at it, and Sharna said, our eventual goal is Linganga Samrasya. To me, once I can come to even close to that, whether I feel it or not, I don't know. But if my nature, if my behavior every day comes close to quote unquote him, then I have achieved Linganga Samrasya. I think all these practices will take us there. One thing I really am impressed with your talk today is you tied Sankhya to Shiva Yoga so well. In our discussions, people have always commented that Sharnas did not pay any attention to the Sankhya and other literature they had. And some people say they distilled them to come up with vachanas. That controversy is going on always, but in my own thinking, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Kelavam Gallavarinda Kaltu, Kelavam Kavyagarinda Agano ideyalla. So I am ready for knowledge from everywhere. So as long as we keep that open mind, I think there is plenty for us to learn. Thank you for a very nice presentation.
Amrutesh here.
ಅಮೃತೇಶ್ ಹೇಳಿ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಬನ್ನಿ.
I'm presentable. Yes, apologize. I went out, I came back, didn't have time. So I apologize. I only turned on the audio. To answer the previous question, here is what I'm thinking. In Shiva Yoga, I just fit into a karma yogi. That's all I have right now. Still we have plenty to achieve karma yoga, but that's where we are. Jnana yoga, just forget it. We are not there yet. But I have to give you, commenting on your presentation, you did wonderful. This is, by profession, I'm a professor. I like the way you put it in the flow charts. These are very good to understand. I always say compare contrast for my students. And this, you did it wonderful. I had one question though, the hierarchy. When you said that shunya are at the top, is it possible to do bottom up rather than top down?
Yeah, that's why I said hierarchy is always a problem, because we tend to put something higher than the other. And in the spiritual world, there is nothing higher, nothing lower. It's just a perspective. And even in yoga world also, we do the same thing. We draw, and then people will always say, why is this outside and this is inside? Like in case of panchakoshas, if we put Anandamaya kosha deepest and the Annamaya kosha outside, they say that's fine. But sometimes some people say, no, Anandamaya kosha should be outside because it is the broadest, it's highest, and expansion. And then the Annamaya kosha is the contracted version, sthula, so it has to go inward. So all these pictures are always confusing in that sense. But just because it's a flow chart, it always flows from top to bottom. As far as I'm concerned, I'm a computer engineer, it just made sense to me. But you are right, shunya is the adhikarana. It is the adhara and adhikarana of the whole universe. In that sense, we can put it down. But it kind of, from a computer engineering point of view, for me, It just doesn't make sense to draw from bottom to top. That's all. It's just my own. That's why I put sideways also, right? One of them was sideways also.
Yes,
So, yeah.
sideways. The last slide was sideways, Ishtalinga, then Pranalinga, then the final Bhavalinga. I was thinking about the same way. The sideways, once you achieve all the components of Ishtalinga, would it lead to Pranalinga? And the same thing, once you achieve all the components of Pranalinga, would it take us to Bhavalinga?
Yes, possibly. And as we also say in Yoga Shastra, we say the same thing. That is, in most of these cases, we say don't put a hierarchy to it and don't wait, for all the emotions to settle down before you take up the next one. Because many a times we tend to develop what they call anavasthitatvam, or you basically won't hold the foothold. You don't have a foothold on that particular faculty of your mind, and then you will start getting disillusioned, right? I have been doing Ishtalinga Puja for so long and I'm still thinking like this and still nothing much happened. What is this? Life is useless. I am useless. This kind of feeling comes. So when you start exploring in Jnana field, I think Kiranji probably meant that kind of question, where if I have that intellectual grasp, or intellectual capacity, why not explore that? Or even if I don't, in fact, even in our therapy, yoga as therapy, right? We use spiritual therapy. We say that if certain faculty is very poor in a person, right? They don't want to even go into intellectual side. We sometimes ask them, you know what, you should, because that's also part of the versatility. So when your mind becomes versatile in different perspectives, different fields, in fact, then also there is a chance that you grow much bigger. So we say without jnana, karma yoga becomes a blind ritual. So you need to know, I'm drawing this little star on my hand and I'm putting linga on it. And if I don't know what that star is, what is that Shakti that we are talking about? What is that Shri Yantra that we are talking about? What is this? The Ishtalinga worship is Tantra, for the most part, technique. And if we know Tantra and Mantra and Yantra, all three are involved already in this Ishtalinga. But without going into a tattva of it, they just become a blind Tantra, right? Technique that is done without knowing what it is. So in a way, understanding that tattva will only be a puraka. Yaradu ondakkondu puraka ಆಗ್ತವೆ ಹೊರತಾಗಿ they are not going to be contradicting each other. So in a way, I think having hierarchy is always a problem. So it's okay to explore. I mean, I may not claim that I'm done with the Ishtalinga Puja and now I'm ready for Pranalinga, and that's like ego statement in that case, right? Who is going to certify me that I'm done with my Ishtalinga Puja and now I am into Bhavalinga? Who is going to certify me? Well, except me, nobody is going to certify me. And we are not in a strict Gurukula environment where the Guru is watching and knows me intimately and will say, now you are ready. That is also not the case. So you are your own guru for the most part. So you have to just go explore. Finally, does anything bother you? As long as something bothers you, you are not there. And so then continue even more, doubly, in all three of the Ishtalinga, Bhavalinga, Pranalinga and Bhavalinga. That's how I feel. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah.
Any other questions?
ಅಶ್ವಿನಿ ಅವ್ರ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಇತ್ತು.
ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಇರ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡೆ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ 24 ಗಂಟೆ ಇದ್ದು ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಕ್ಲಾರಿಫೈ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೆ ನಾನು.
ಇಲ್ಲ ರೀ, ಇದು ಲೈಫ್ ಲಾಂಗ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಸೊ ಒಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ, ಓಕೆ,
Harish, you need to move. I think there's a lot of distortion. Thank you.
Yeah.
ಅಶ್ವಿನಿ ಅವ್ರ ನಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ, ಕರ್ಮಯೋಗ ಮತ್ತೆ ಜ್ಞಾನಯೋಗ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಭಕ್ತಿ ಯೋಗ, ಭಕ್ತಿ ಪಾಠ ಎಲ್ಲ 3 ಲಿಂಗನಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತದೆ.
ಭಕ್ತಿ ಇಸ್ ಕರ್ಮಯೋಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಭಕ್ತಿಯಿಂದ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ, ಭಕ್ತ ಸ್ಥಳದಿಂದ. ಸೊ ಪ್ರೆಟಿ ಮಚ್ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೈಂಡ್. ಅದನ್ನ ನೀವು ಕರ್ಮಯೋಗ ಅಂದಾಗ ಯು ಆರ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್ ಭಕ್ತಿ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಸೇಯಿಂಗ್, calling your spouse and saying I love you is not love, right? You really have to do something towards the love. that you are expressing. So bhakti is only a state of mind, but only when you take up karma yoga, the bhakti is manifested. And in case of jnana, jnana yoga, it is, we talk about, in fact, why you are asking is because there are, Swami Vivekananda has talked about 4 streams of yoga, but you can, Bhagavad Gita says, brings only 2 streams, which is karma and bhakti. Lokesmin dvividha nishtha. The one is karma yoga, which he calls yoga, and the other he calls sankhya, which is basically jnana yoga. So both become they complement each other. Bhakti strengthens your jnana, and jnana strengthens your bhakti.
So basically bhakti is embedded into karma yoga. That's a requirement to even practice karma yoga, and also it will become a bridge for both karma yoga and jnana yoga.
And sometimes bhakti is not easy. I may want to have bhakti, but I don't have I'm too skeptic. I'm intellectually very skeptic. Then how do I, probably tattva jnana in that case, think about this universe, how it is formed, and look at this whole model and a framework of thinking. Doesn't mean that this is the only framework. Again, we are not claiming that this is the only framework. Buddha has his own framework, which is a slight modification of Sankhya. So, and Kashmir Shaivism has another model. So whichever is the model, which model doesn't matter, but go with a model, understand it thoroughly, live it. And then, as Ramakrishna Paramahamsa did, try another model, live it. And you will find that, it only enriches you. It never contradicts with each other. We think that, oh my God, I'm not supposed to follow that one. Like Mahesha Sthiti. When you are in a Mahesha Sthala, you are supposed to follow only one path. Why? Because otherwise you are confused. You are digging everywhere. But once you are, you have figured it out, then it doesn't matter for you which path. Then you see a mountain from one side or the other side, it doesn't matter. But if you go on like running around the mountain and not seeing anything, you will not get any view of any mountain. So that is the reason for Mahesha Sthala, where you have to really stick to one path and follow it. But there are pitfalls in all of these things where we tend to develop and become fanatic about it and say, this my path is better than other path. That's not the point. It's just that you stick to your path. And of course, don't allow others to attack your path either. So you be having nishtha, and you also you protect your community from being attacked, and at the same time you be inclusive. See, it's a very interesting dicey game, but that's how you should be. That's
okay. The another aspect is even Raj Yoga is also embedded into this practice, right? Because you need Raj Yoga, cleansing your mind, your thoughts, yama niyamas also. Basically, that means Raj Yoga and Bhakti Yoga is first basic, even elementary level practice one should practice before you go into even any of these practices. That's
some
understood
basic,
that you should have that. Yeah.
Some basic level. And once you have decently enough done, not mastered and really, come out, but some decent level, then you take up Jnana Yoga as well.
Thank you.
ಅನಿಲ್ ಅವರು ನಿನ್ನೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೆ ನಾನು ಅಶ್ವಿನಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ. ಯು ಆರ್ ವೆರಿ ಲಕ್ಕಿ ಟು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಹೂ ಇಸ್ ಸೋ ಮಚ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಆಸ್ ಎ ಸ್ಪೌಸ್ ಅಂತ. She gave a different answer, but you disproved not exactly what I wanted to hint her. ಓಕೆ, ನನಗೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅಶ್ವಿನಿ ಅವರೇ, ನೀವು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ ಗುಡ್ಡದಿಂದ ತಿರುಗ್ತಾ ಬಿಡ್ತೀವಿಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಅಂತ. ಇವಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇಫ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಎ ಸ್ಕೆಪ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್, ಯು ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಎವ್ರಿಥಿಂಗ್. ಈ ಭಕ್ತಿ ನಂಬಿಕೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ನಾವು ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ಯಾವುದನ್ನು ನಂಬಕ್ಕಾಗದಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಬರದೇ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಅದು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ನಾವು ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಪಟ್ಟರು ಅದು ನಮ್ಮ ಮನಸ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಬರಬೇಕದು. ಅದು ಯಾವಾಗ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಇನ್ ಅವರ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್. ಐ ಅಗ್ರಿ ವಿತ್ ಯು. ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ಬಿಲೀವ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಬರಬೇಕು ಆ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಅಂತ. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಆ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ನಂಬಿಕೆ 100% ಬಂತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯುವರ್ ಫಿನಿಶ್ಡ್. ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ನಾವು ಡೋರ್ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ವೆರಿ ಡಿಫಿಕಲ್ಟ್ ಟು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್. ಇವಾಗ 100% ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಬರಲ್ಲ, ನಂಬಿಕೆಗಳು ಬರಲ್ಲ. ಎಷ್ಟೇ ನಂಬಿಕೆ ಇದ್ರೂ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಡೌಟ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ಓಪನಿಂಗ್ ದ ಡೋರ್ ಫಾರ್ ದಿ ನ್ಯೂ ಥಾಟ್ಸ್ ಟು ಕಮ್ ಇನ್. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಎ ವೆರಿ ಚಾಲೆಂಜಿಂಗ್ ಸಿಚುಯೇಷನ್. ನನಗೆ ನಾನು ಬಹಳ ಸಲ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ನೀನು ಯಾವುದನ್ನು ಫುಲ್ ನಂಬಲಲ್ಲ, ಯಾತಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂತ.
ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್,
ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂತ.
ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್. ಇದು ಎಷ್ಟು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಕ್ಯಾಚ್ 22 ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಭಕ್ತಿ, ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಮ್ಯೂಟ್. ಯಾ, ಭಕ್ತಿ, ಅದಕ್ಕೇನೆ ಭಕ್ತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಲೆವೆಲ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ವಿತ್ ಅ ಲೀಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಫೇತ್. ಅದಕ್ಕೇನೆ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ನಾನು ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಸರೆಂಡರ್ ಆಗ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ಫೈನಲ್ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್, ಅದು ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಫೈನಲ್ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಸರೆಂಡರ್ ಆಗ್ತೀವಿ. ಸರೆಂಡರ್ ಯಾವಾಗ ಫೈನಲ್ ಆಗ್ತೀವಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮರ್ಜರ್, ಅದೇ ಐಕ್ಯ. ಭಕ್ತಿದು ಕೊನೆಯ ಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಅದು. ಸೊ ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾನು ನಾನು ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಮುಗಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಬಹಳ ಡಿಫಿಕಲ್ಟ್. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಭಕ್ತ ಸ್ಥಳದಲ್ಲಿನೂ ಕೂಡ ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಇದೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅದು ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟಿಲ್, ಅದು ಇಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ ಆದ್ರೂ ಅದು ಓನ್ಲಿ ಬಿಗಿನಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಅದು. ಬಟ್ ಈವನ್ ಭಾವಲಿಂಗದಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಇಫ್ ಯು ಸಿ ಹೌ ದಟ್ ಚಾರ್ಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಬಿನ್ ಗಿವನ್, ಅಟ್ ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಐ ಫ್ರಾಂಕ್ಲಿ ಡೋಂಟ್ ನೋ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಸೋರ್ಸ್, ಬಟ್ ಐ ಫೌಂಡ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಕುಮಾರ್ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ ಟಾಕ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಸಿದ್ದೇಶ್ವರ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿದು, ಕುಮಾರ್ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿದು ರೈಟಿಂಗ್ಸು ಅಂಡ್ ಸಿದ್ದೇಶ್ವರ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ ಟಾಕ್ಸ್ ಬೋತ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಮ್ಯಾಚ್ಡ್. ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ನೋ, ಐ ಆಮ್ ಟ್ರೈಂಗ್ ಟು ಫೈಂಡ್ ಔಟ್ ದ ಸೋರ್ಸ್, ಬಟ್ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ವೆಬ್ಸೈಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇವರು, ಕುಮಾರ್ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ ವೆಬ್ಸೈಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ವೀರಶೈವ.net ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಬೇಸಿಕಲಿ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಯು ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಲೀಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಫೇತ್. ಇವಾಗ ನನಗೊಂದು ಟ್ಯಾಬ್ಲೆಟ್ ತಗೋಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ, ಇದು ನನ್ನ ಹೆಡೇಕ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಬಟ್ ಯು ಟೇಕ್ ದಟ್ ಟ್ಯಾಬ್ಲೆಟ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅ ಲೀಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಫೇತ್. ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ನಿನ್ ಪಾಯ್ಸನ್ ಯಾರೋ ಕೊಟ್ಟರು, ಯಾವನೋ ಒಬ್ಬ ನಿಮ್ಮ ವೈರಿ ತಂದು ಟ್ಯಾಬ್ಲೆಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಇದು ತಿನ್ನಪ್ಪ ನಿನ್ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಇವನೇನ್ ವಿಷ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ನಾನು ಚಲ್ ಬಿಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಐ ಆಮ್ ನಾಟ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಟೇಕ್ ದಟ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ದಟ್ ದಿಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾನ್ ಮೈಟ್ ಬಿ ರೆಡಿ ಟು ಕಿಲ್ ಮಿ. But if a friend or a doctor gives you the same tablet, you will say, yeah, I'm ready to take. So there is a leap of faith there. But does the tablet help you? You don't know. You still don't know. Maybe that headache never goes away even with that tablet. So, but still you are ready to take. So that is the initial bhakti. Then you keep going with that. Daily ನಾನು ಇದನ್ನ ಈ ತರ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಡೈಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಂಗೆ ಇದು ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Then you go with regular practice. And it's not easy to do that because nothing is happening. You are doing your Ishtalinga puja every day, nothing is happening, and you still do it. And that is Nishta. Then comes the Nishta. Ee tara ನೀವು bhakti stages ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಭಕ್ತಿ. And then what happens is you also taste some of God in you already. So that taste changes your intensity of bhakti increases when you start feeling it inside you. So ಏನಾಯ್ತು ಈಗ, ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, I went to 10 days of Vipassana training. Since then my taste of God has increased a little bit more because there is no distraction there, ಏನilla yarilla, 10 days no, and fasting and this and that, everything, right? All spiritual practices. Then you suddenly elevate yourself and you say, well, yeah, that makes sense. Now you're more inspired. So all these are necessary. You have to take up deeper and deeper levels of practices. Then you taste a wellness inside. You taste that godliness inside, and then your bhakti increases. So this is all there is. You have to meditate. You have to adu ಏನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಲ್ಲ ಕೊನೆ practice. That is very important. I mean, ಇದೇ practice ಅಂತಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು meditation ಆಗಲಿ, it's very important to go reach that state of peace. Then your bhakti also, state of jnana also in a way. Because it is a state of jnana also, right? You just sensed something inside. So ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಜ್ಞಾನ ಮತ್ತು ಭಕ್ತಿ ಪೂರಕವಾಗಿ ಯಾಕಿರ್ತವೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಜ್ಞಾನ gives you the cognitive state, bhakti gives you the inspirational state. Both of these are necessary. ಒಂದು emotion, ಒಂದು cognition, they both have to go on lock step ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ನಾವು. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಲಾಕ್, ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟೆಪ್, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದೊಂದೊಂದೊಂದು ಈ ತರ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ, ಲಾಕ್ ಸ್ಟೆಪ್ ಮ್ಯಾನರ್.
Even leap of faith is very important. That's a beginning point, right? Because if you don't have faith to even leap of faith to take the tablet, sometimes that could be a placebo effect. Because even though there may not be expected effect, but there is because of faith, there could be positive effect of that.
Yeah.
So it is a leap of faith is very, very important, right? Even as the entry point to any of these practice.
Yeah. We have to tell our children that. See, you have to go try it out. Don't reject before you try it out. There is no God. What does that mean? Just try it out. If they say, I don't believe in God, I say, that's fine. Why? Who asked you to believe in God? First of all, first question I ask them is, what is God? Why are you saying I don't believe in God? What is God? Right there, they stop. And then they say, okay, you tell me what's God. I said, if I have to tell you what is God, why are you saying you don't believe in God? So you came with a question that I want to know what is God. That is good enough. That is the leap of faith right there. And we all are same. We just pretend that we know and we believe, but we are all charvakas at the end of the day, right? We are all like that. So it takes time. It takes a lot of culturing of mind.
ಇನ್ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಇದೆಯಾ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾರ್ದಾರು?
ನಂದು ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಇದೆ,
ಕೇಳಿ ಅಣ್ಣ.
Ashwini ಅವರೇ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. And Sharanu, it was an amazing, very knowledgeable talk, and you have introduced so much of terminologies. I think I will take months together to understand each and every one of them. But just to simplify my question, is the ultimate process of transformation has to be from Jnana Yoga to Bhakti Yoga, because most of the Virashaiva literature says Guru Patave Modalu anta heltalla. So what is your opinion, and do we have to start from Jnana Yoga and transform ourselves to Bhakti Yoga?
Correct. Very nice question, and thank you very much. And I also feel a little intimidated when seniors like you ask these questions. I'm sure you have done enough work, and you have the humility to say that you have lots to learn, and so do I. And I do feel that there is nothing like Jnana is the best way, or Bhakti is the best way. And if you really, everything is based on how your temperament is, right? If you have a temperament towards Karma Yoga, I think that is the best way. Devotion is one Karma Yoga. Service to poor is another Karma Yoga. There are various ways of doing Karma Yoga. Even the puja paddhati and all of that, Shodasha Puja, whatever that you take up with rituals and everything, or without rituals, simply, meditating on the Ishtalinga, whichever is the path, all of these are Karma Yoga. And if that is what motivates you, then that's the path to follow. And if however if you are like me, I can sit with the books for days and days, and I don't know how time goes, and I don't want anything else other than books. If you are that kind of a person, then if I sit in front of and do Shodasha Puja, I am like yawning, and probably nowadays I'm not yawning as much, but I have also grown up a little bit in that area. So I had to, so basically Jnana Yoga for people like me, skeptics and quote unquote intellectuals. I don't like to use the word intellectual. It seems like, a superior kind of sentence. That's not the case. We are just simply skeptics and have the propensity to follow this dry philosophy, so to say, attracts me the most. The more challenging, the better. That's my that's how I feel. There are many people like that, and for them this Tattva Jnana is autana, adu ontara ಖುಷಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. But for others it might be just a wasted exercise, complete drain on their brain, right? Then you don't want to do that. So there is no right or wrong thing, except ultimately the goal is to culture your mind to the point where you are seeing divine in everything. As long as the mind continues to go to that state, it doesn't matter which path. That's at least what Vedanta says. That's what Virashaiva dharma says. All dharmas say the same thing. But completely devoid of is also not considered great. You need to know why you do what you do. That concept has to be there. That's all.
Thank you.
Any other question?
I ask one more question, Amrutesh again.
ಹೇಳಿ ಅಮೃತೇಶ್.
Can you elaborate on tanmatras? Tanmatras, you said there are 5 subtle elements.
Yeah.
I was wondering what they are.
Yeah.
Please.
It's basically simple thing. It's not even too hard. Shabda sparsha rupa rasa gandha. Basically, it's the shabda is sound, sparsha is touch, rupa is sight, rasa is taste, gandha is smell. But it doesn't stop here. The beauty of this Sankhya is each of these Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, even why in that order? Is there an order to it? There is very much an order to it. Is there an order to the Akasha and the Bhumi, Aap, Teja, Vayu, Akasha. There is an order and hierarchy to it. What is the order and hierarchy? It is from the subtlest to the grossest. So when you are coming from Linga to Anga, you go from the subtlest to the grossest. When you go from Anga to Linga, you go from grossest to subtlest. That is why there is a order to it. And in fact, that ordering even comes even in the Virashaiva Tattva also later. They usually use the word lingas for everything, even for Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Salang, Gandha also. So for example, just to give you an idea about this itself, I'm sorry, this is a very long answer because it's not going to be easy. Shabda is the simple vibration. Shabda is simple vibration. Sparsha is, so Shabda is sound, basically simple vibration. Sparsha, for example, they say include Shabda also. Like take an example of Akasha. Akasha has only vibration, so only Shabda. Then fire. Fire has both sound as well as the sight. From there comes Vayu. Vayu has Shabda and Sparsha because you can feel it on your tvak also, on your skin. Then third level comes the fire, which is Shabda, Sparsha and Rupa. That is the first primordial element which you can see. That is, so this is primordial. Primordial sound is Akasha. Primordial Sparsha is air. Primordial sight is given by the fire. Primordial next Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa. Taste is coming from the water, and primordial smell is coming from the Bhumi Tattva. So if you, and Akashat Vayuhu, Vayor Agnihi, Agne Rapaha, Adbyaha Prithvi, Prithvyat Oshadayaha, Oshadayat Annam, Annat Purushaha. So it's such a beautiful concept of how, from ಸೂಕ್ಷ್ಮದಿಂದ ನಾವು ಸ್ಥೂಲಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಾಗ ಅವಾಗ ನಾವು ಏನಂತೀವಿ, ಅದ್ವೈತ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡೋ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆನೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನಾವು ಬಂದಿದ್ದು ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ? ಶಬ್ದದಿಂದ. Finally, at the end of the day, we have just, it's like ice, water, vapor. They are not three different things. ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಅದು ತಿಳಿ ಆದಾಗ ಅದು ವೇಪರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅದು ಗಟ್ಟಿ ಆದಾಗ ಐಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅದು ಒಂದೇನೆ. ಸೇಮ್ ಥಿಂಗ್, ವೆನ್ ವಿ die and we cease to be, we are just dispersing that into the original element. So avaga bhaya iralla. So this tattvajnana yake antandre, then that fear is lost. When you go on and on and on indulging into tattvajnana, you will start seeing the elemental nature in the world, and you will start seeing body also as in that elemental way, and then you will say, who is dying? Kam ಘಾತಯತಿ ಹಂತಿಕಂ. ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಹೊಡಿತಾರೆ, ಯಾರು ಸಾಯ್ತಾರೆ, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಏನಿಲ್ಲೇ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಎಲ್ಲ ತತ್ವಗಳು. ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಸತ್ವರಜಸ್ ತಮಸ್ಸಿದು ಡ್ರಾಮಾ ಇದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ ಕೃಷ್ಣ, ಆ ಥರ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಐಡಿಯಾ ಬಿಹೈಂಡ್ ದಿಸ್. ಸಾರಿ, ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಲಾಂಗ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸೋ ಮಚ್. ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರಿ. ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಡೈಜೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇಟ್. ಮಂತ್ಸ್ ಟುಗೆದರ್ ತಗೋಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ವಂಡರ್ಫುಲ್. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
ಶಂಕರ್ ಅವರೇ,
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ.
ನಿಮ್ದು ಪರಿಚಯ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಬಂದಿರೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಬಂದಿರ್ಬೋದು ಹಿಂದೆ, ನಿಮ್ ಪರಿಚಯ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲ ಗೆಳೆಯರಿಗೂ.
ಶೋರ್. ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ಶಂಕರ್ ಪಾಟ್ಲ ಅಂತ.
ಕರಿ ಕೂದಲು ನೋಡ್ತೀರ, ಬಹಳ ಸಂತೋಷ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ವೀಕ್ ಡೈ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೆ. ಸೊ ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ಶಂಕರ್ ಪಾಟ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ನಾ ಇರೋದು ಪೆನ್ಸಿಲ್ವೇನಿಯಾ, ಹ್ಯಾರಿಸ್ಬರ್ಗ್ ಪೆನ್ಸಿಲ್ವೇನಿಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಇದು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ನಾ ಬಂದಿದ್ದು. So thank you for all the knowledge. Thank you for all the discussion. So I had only one question. So if I have to start reading about from the base, what would be a good start? Like any books, any links, documents?
ನಾನು ಐ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ
ಅವ್ರು ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ಮೊದಲು ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ, ನೀವು ವಿಚಾರ ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗೆಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರತಿ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಬನ್ನಿ. ದಟ್ಸ್ ಎ ಗುಡ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್. ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್.
Sure.
I agree. That is, last time I was listening to that Buddhism and comparison ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ವೀರಶೈವ Buddhism. It was a phenomenal ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್. ಈ ಥರ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಪರ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ಸ್ ನೀವು ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನೀವು ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಕಲ್ಕೋತೀರಿ. ಅಟ್ ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಆಸ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್, ನಾನು ಸಿದ್ದೇಶ್ವರ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ ಬುಕ್ಸ್ ಆಗಲಿ, ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಟಾಕ್ಸ್ ಆಗಲಿ, those are some of the things that I follow. ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಕೇನೋಪನಿಷತ್ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, ವೇರಿಯಸ್ ಉಪನಿಷತ್ ಮೇಲೂ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಉಪನಿಷತ್ತನ್ನು ತಗೊಂಡು ಅವರು ವಚನಗಳನ್ನು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ವಿ ಯೂಸ್ ದೆಮ್. So that it makes it very, very beautiful, because ವಚನಗಳು they are only statements of rapture. ಅಂದರೆ ಋಷಿ ಒಂದು ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಮೂಡಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಏನೋ ಶಬ್ದ ಅಂದಂಗೆ, ಅದು ಆ ಥರದ್ದಿರುತ್ತೆ ವಚನಗಳು. ವಚನಸ್ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ರಿಟನ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಬುಕ್. Whereas ಸಿದ್ದೇಶ್ವರ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ ಅಂತವರು ದೇ ಆರ್ ಸ್ಕಾಲರ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟೇಕನ್ ದೀಸ್ ಉಪನಿಷತ್ ಆಗಲಿ, ಅವ್ರು ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ತಗೊಂಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಯೋಗ ಸೂತ್ರ ತಗೊಂಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ಅವರು ಎಲ್ಲ ವಚನಗಳು ಹಾಕಿ ಅವರು ಅದನ್ನ ಬರೆದಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ನನಗೆ ಓದಕ್ಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟ, ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಐ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಲರ್ನ್ ಮಚ್ ಬೆಟರ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ವೇ. So that is my one way of learning. The other way of learning, by the way, there is a lot of English translated books on Amazon right now from Siddheshwar Swamiji. So Nyani Yogashrama books ella ide. The second thing is I also read a lot of Kumar Swamiji's books. Ella adu tumbane language you need to read a lot, because you have to initially grasping the language itself is the barrier, because ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಬೇರೆ ಇದೆ ಮತ್ತು ತುಂಬಾ ಹೈ ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಇದೆ, and some of the words it kind of are not used anymore in that same sense, so it gets a little confusing. But as you go on reading, you will develop adu ruchinu sigate, because his English is so superb. I would also follow virshaiva.net. These are the books, but then ವಚನ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಸಿದ್ದೇಶ್ವರ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿದು ವಚನ ನಿರ್ವಚನ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಪುಸ್ತಕ ಇದೆ, ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ. ದೇ ಆರ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ ಇನ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್, ಬಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಗಾಟ್, ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ವಿತ್ ದೆಮ್.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
ಈಗ ಸಮಯ ಆಯಿತು ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ, ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ವಿ ಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಮೋರ್ ದೆನ್ 90 minutes. ಅಶ್ವಿನಿ ಅವರೇ, ಬಹಳ ಇಷ್ಟಪಟ್ಟು ನೀವು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದನ್ನ, ನೀವು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ಸ್ನ ನೀವು ಅರ್ಧ ಹೇಳಿರೋ ವಚನಗಳದ್ದು ಪೂರ್ತಿ ವಚನಗಳು ನೀವು ಲಿರಿಕ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನನಗೆ ಕಳಿಸ್ಕೊಟ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನೊಂದು ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಾನು ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಪುಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ, ಸೊ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಲುಕ್ ಎಟ್ ದಟ್ ವೆರಿ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಲಿ. ಮತ್ತೊಂದು ಸಲ ಎಲ್ಲರ ಪರವಾಗಿ ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತು, ಇವಾಗ ನಾವು ಸಮಯ ಕಳೆದಿರೋದು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ ಭಾಳಷ್ಟು ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಕೇಳಿದವರಿಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಇನ್ಸ್ಪೈರ್ ಆಗಿ ನಾವು ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಬೀನ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸಿಂಗ್. ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಕೇಳಿದ್ವಿ ಅಂತ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಆಳವಾಗಿ ಕೇಳಿದ್ವಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಭಾಳ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಮುಖ್ಯ. ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಇವತ್ತಿನ ದಿನ ಸಾಧಿಸಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಇಷ್ಟು ಹೇಳಿ ಇನ್ನೇನು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಪರವಾಗಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ನಾನು ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಮುಗಿಸೋಣ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಮುಂದಿನ ವಿಚಾರ ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ನೀವು ನನ್ನ ಮೆಸೇಜನ್ನು ಕಾಯ್ತಾ ಇರಿ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸೋಣ.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ.
ಗುಡ್ ಐಡಿಯಾ.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಅಮೃತೇಶ್, ಅಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಟ್.